record this meeting, our discussions, and then upload them. So I want to welcome you all, and first of all, apologize for the late start. I've been waiting for something from the head, but I think he also got a bit busy with his schedule. As you know, I'm running 3 groups. They're supposed to be, we have students of Rubaga, students of Munkozi, then in the evening I'll have students from Masaka. By show of hands, can you show me who is from Rubaga? How many of, at least those who are so far logged in now? Okay. I'm seeing so far 2, 3. So far 3 of you are from Rubaga. Is that it? Are you, oh, more have raised 4. Is that it? Is that the extent of the class? Are others aware of this timetable? So Faith says no. Okay. Are others aware of this time? They are aware, but they just haven't logged in. Okay. They are all part of the group. Eh? Okay. Faith says you told them. Faith, are they part of the WhatsApp group? Okay. Okay. So we can assume then that whatever it is that has delayed them, they have their justifiable reasons. Let's assume that. So the balance, I assume, is from Munkozi. Yes. So everyone, you can lower your hands. That is fine. So I'm going to assume the rest are from Munkozi campus, and then I'll meet the Masaka campus in the evening. Okay. So we know that we have 2 divided groups. So first, before we start, I want to share with you our study guide. What will guide us as we do this course unit, research methods in IT. And specifically, what we want to understand, we shall basically start with an introduction, and we hope to cover quite a number of issues, especially the basics of research, how you can do research, the tools that you use as you carry out your research, because at the end, in your 3rd year, you're expected to do a research project or a dissertation. Now, for this particular course unit, we hope those tools will assist you as you carry out your research. So the most important thing for me as a lecturer is that you grasp those tools clearly. So for me to be able to know you've grasped them, I'll need to assess you. But assessment is not enough. Throughout this course, one of the things I seriously urge you to do is to ask, and ask. Participate, and participate. When we are large groups, we normally get a situation where some participants decide to pull back and not give a response or not give any indication whether they've understood something, whether they have any idea about what something that is being discussed. I would advise that you ask as much as possible. There is no shame in asking. So ask. Let's discuss extensively so that we understand. Research is something that is it's a skill on its own. Just like you've picked up programming skills. Sorry, it's a bit cold here. So the cold weather is getting in my chest. Let me just zip up. So research is a skill just like you've picked up programming skills, network design and maintenance skills, so is research. It's a skill that you pick up. One thing I can assure you of, research comes from you. The answer comes from you. It doesn't come from your supervisor. It doesn't come from the lecturer. It comes from you. So it is important you understand the basics. You understand how to go about solving a research problem, and how you go about to communicate that research problem to a community of academics. So my job is to give you those skills so that you understand the tools you have available to you, and you understand a research problem, you're able to identify a research problem and communicate it. Then to use the appropriate scientific methods, note the appropriate scientific methods, and use them appropriately and ethically to communicate to the rest of the world. Imagine you're doing a programming assignment, or you're going to program a piece of software. You have skills that you've been given. So this is exactly the same thing, but it's a completely new area, so to speak. And it's very important that you participate. So I'm going to urge you to participate extensively in this course unit. So in terms of assessment, I have set out 3 modes for assessing you in terms of coursework. So we have 3 pieces of coursework. 2 are group, as you can see. The very first one will look at identification of research components. Yeah. And then the second one will be a concept paper that you will write as a group. The third will be a quiz. Okay. Then for your final exam, sorry, that would be the third, but then there's also something else that is added on for your coursework. That is your participation and attendance. So participation and attendance are extremely important for you to get these extra 5 marks. So we can assume those who have not attended today, they've missed out a certain mark for this exam, for your coursework. Then you'll have your final exam. Your final exam will be in form of, it will be a take home, a concept paper that you will write individually. So far, are we together? Have you understood me? Should I just speak on somebody? Dorothy, am I making sense? Dorothy Naturanda.
Yes, madam.
Pardon?
Yes, madam.
Okay, okay. I hope it is clear for everyone what I'm trying to communicate. Grace says yes. Thank you, Grace, for your response. Now, let us move through the weeks and we hope we can finish this within 4 or 5 weeks. I hope that's enough time, ample time. Pardon? Okay. So today, we are going to look at the introduction to the course unit. So we have started with that. We're talking about the course outline. At the end of this discussion, I will ask you to give me your expectations. So think about it. So we are going to then look at the baselines of research, especially in research in IT. Then I will give you a reading assignment. We are going to start with a discussion forum, and then we continue with that in our second lecture. So I'll give you an article, I'll upload it on Moodle. I'm going to ask each one of you to read it individually. And then I'm going to start up a discussion forum. where I hope all of you will participate, including the class I'll have in the evening, the Masaka group. I'll put it up at the same time for all of you. Put in a word about some of the things we're going to discuss. Then the following week, we shall start with that particular assignment. We discuss it verbally, and anything we may not have understood, we discuss it. So I'm trying to encourage as much as possible discussion amongst all of us so that we understand what we are talking about. Then we shall look at the nature and methods of research, and we shall also look at some of the generic approaches to research. So Hisan will be done using a Zoom session. Then next week, I'll give you your first group assignment. That is the identification of basic research components. So I'm going to ask for your groups now. I set up your groups in Moodle. Then I'll give the groups articles, different articles, and you give me a discussion by identifying some of the basic research components. So in the third week, you'll present that discussion. So this is supposed to be assignment 1, not assignment 2. And then because we are many, I'm assuming that will take up much of week. This should be week 3. Sorry, I'll renumber those. Then the following week, we shall have research problem identification and the research process. So one of the biggest issues we have in research is, what is a research problem? There's a big difference between a problem and a research problem. Yeah, two completely different things. Just like, for example, there are some people who are very, I have a nephew who is very business-minded, and is always looking out for business opportunities. So a business opportunity, anyone who has done business knows a business opportunity is basically somebody's problem, somebody's need. So the way you view it, the way you view a business problem is not the same way you'd say view a personal problem. Let's say you have a personal problem with a friend, with a parent, with your sibling. That falls more into an emotional problem, personal emotional problems. But when you have a business opportunity, maybe somebody needs to buy a particular dress, not just any dress, but a particular dress. That's a business opportunity or a business problem. So also research is in the same category. Research, they are also what we call research problems. They are unique. And the way we view them is quite different from the ordinary problems. So we shall look at that. Then we shall have our second assignment. Then the last topics we shall discuss will be proposal writing and data analysis. Most likely these we shall split them up into 2 more weeks. Then you'll have your final exam, which is a concept paper. Yeah. So far, is that understood? Gertrude, is that understood so far? Am I making sense or no?
Yes, madam.
Gertrude didn't answer. That is Gertrude Gumoshave. Is Gertrude online? Okay, we may have a habit of coming online and then simply going to do something else. Like I said, participation is extremely important, particularly for your sake. Yeah, not for mine, but for your sake, so that we are moving at the same pace. And remember, dissertation is one of the biggest portions of your degree, biggest portions. So these are my contact details. These are my qualifications in case anyone wishes to. Thank you, Primrose, for your response. And these are some of the recommended readings that I would offer. So with that, I think let us begin our introductory course. Like I said, my names are Sheba Rusoke Nyakaisiki. I'm a graduate of Uganda Matters University. I graduated many years ago. I was in the pioneer group. I joined UMU in 1995. I'm sure some of you may not have been born by then. So I did my master's degree in computing and a PhD also in the field of ICT. So let's come to the topic at hand. Research methods. Somebody here? Oh, someone saying I'm an old girl yes, for real, I'm really an old girl. That one I usually tell, I used to tell my IT students, the time when I used to teach programming, that when I was an almost student, we didn't have mobile phones. There was one phone booth. Those who are at Inkozi, the reception area, just outside the reception area, we had a phone booth. And if anyone called, if some other phone rang and whoever was passing by would hear the phone ringing, would go pick it up. The person would say, I want to talk to so-and-so. Then you say, okay, give me 10 minutes. Call back after 10 minutes. In that time, the person peruses throughout the campus and they call. By the time you call back, the person is there. And we had one computer lab. And for us who did EDS, we worked using, DOS. We just had a big blue screen. We didn't use a mouse. We were only using the function keys. So it's really a big transformation from then and now. There's also a story, something I remember, I enjoy telling. When I was in my third year, a friend of mine came and told me that, that the Vice Chancellor had just helped her send an email. And for the life of me, I didn't know what email was. So you can imagine, my age bracket. Yes, for sure. Yeah, we are really of the Stone Age. So, but anyway, I'm happy to have seen all these transformations in my lifetime, to see growth in, I didn't start out in IT, I started out in EDS and just simply transformed it. I should have transitioned to IT along the way. And now I transitioned from being purely IT, I'm now moving more into research. And also for my personal life, I also recently transitioned to being a business farmer. So it's an interesting life, I would say. But that's why I would urge you, every opportunity you have to learn something new, take it. So right now you have an opportunity to learn something about research. Take it. It's also an interesting journey. Of course, it's hard, just like anything. It's tough. It has its tough points. But the minute you grasp it, it is something to value. So for myself, I don't regret. So let us first go through the learning outcomes, and I hope we can discuss them in depth to understand what it is we are talking about. So remember, we say one of the primary reasons we are doing this is so that you may be able to undertake your research project. Okay? Your research project. Now, as undergraduate students, do you have any idea? Have you discussed with others? What have you heard about these research projects and dissertation, especially in the field of IT? What have you heard about it? If you're feeling shy, you can send in a chat. It is okay. What have you heard about research projects?
Madam.
Yes, please.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, Gertrude.
What I've heard about research, I have heard people doing research, but it's all about researching about field of study. Like you can go in the field, make research in any program, any company. You come, you do a detailed case study. You write something about it. You present things of that kind.
Okay.
It's what I've heard about research.
Okay, thank you, Gertrude. I think you've mentioned some of the basics, things that we identify. Thank you, Gertrude, for that. And something Faith here says, Faith, you have not heard anything. Faith. Pardon? Okay, and others, have you had anything? Have others had anything about research? No? Okay. Yes, Robert.
Yes, good morning, class. I heard about the research. And what I heard is like, for example, if there's an organization which is existing and I'm trying to relate it to IT, I maybe have a system which is not functioning well, and you have been as a technical person, what you're supposed to do, you're supposed to go there, then you ask how the system behaves and what they need, maybe if somebody is going to update the systems. So after them explain what they need, yeah, you're supposed to record all the problems, which they've explained. Then you come back and you see how we can solve the problem. And now when you problem, you're supposed to come up with there's some methods which you're supposed to use.
Okay.
For example, that way, but you're supposed to use for collecting the information about the problems which they've explained. You can use either interview or the questionnaire, such kind of a thing. And then afterwards, and then them that maybe if I'll be given a chance, I can solve a problem.
Okay. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Gertrude and Robert. I think you have given us at least an idea of what has been disclosed to you in terms of research. So thank you. We can build on that, build on that knowledge, and I think that's a good one. I hope you all heard what they're saying. There is visiting an existing company. They may have an existing system. They may have challenges, and then you try to solve that problem. Gertrude talked about having a detailed study or a detailed discussion or study on a case study, and you know, things like that. The case study would be the organization, so to speak. So what essentially we are saying, you see that there's a problem, and within a certain context, a case study would be, let's think of it as a context, and trying to come up, devise a solution for that context. So one of the first things we note for IT students in particular is that there's an expectation that you must build something, build an IT solution for an existing contextual problem. Yes? So far, do we understand it? That is the expectation at undergraduate level. That someone says here that some people say it deals with collecting a lot of information and answering questions and solving problems. Yes, that is true. We shall see quite a bit of those, and especially how to appropriately do that. So here, what Talunga says is that you collect a lot of information, you answer questions and solve problems. So that is true. That is very true. So one of the first things we want to do, you can see the first expectation is to identify a significant research problem. So we must identify, that means we must go out, look for, and then identify. So one of the key things I want us to understand is to be able to identify. How can we identify that research problem? How can we do it? What is the academic way of identifying a research problem? That's one. Two, it must be significant. It must be significant. I remember one time I had a discussion, that time when I was starting to do my PhD, and then had a discussion with a colleague. And he said that, a research problem, he said, he gave us an example about research problems. He said, say, for example, someone might say, we don't know the distance between the Earth and the Moon. And my research is to determine the distance between the Earth and the Moon. Then, and he said, but then the question of significance comes in. Well, so what? So what about it? If we know about it, then what? Is it, is there, do we have some miscarriage of justice because we don't know the distance between the Earth and the Moon? So the significance is important. There must be a significant research problem. That in essence, because we don't have an answer for this problem, we can't, there is something that is hindered. Then we come to the third, this other section, a research problem. What is a research problem? I had earlier alluded to it when we talked about a business problem. So a research problem is also quite different. Yeah, it is quite different. So I'm just going to ask all of you, I'm sure all of you, you're online right now. Can some of you just Google what is a research problem? Just go to Google and type in what is a research problem. Just quickly type it in and give me what some of the answers Google gives you. Any results? I'm seeing something from Hafsa here. she says it's a specific issue, difficulty, contradiction, or gap in knowledge that you will aim to address in your research. So it is a specific issue, difficulty, contradiction, or gap in knowledge. The issue is there's a gap in knowledge that you wish to address. That is the significant thing about research. It's a gap in knowledge. Grace says it is a statement about an area of concern, a condition to be improved, a difficult to be eliminated. Yes, statement about an area of concern. So it must be an area of concern to a number of people. Yeah, a condition to be improved, a difficult to be eliminated. And so Anthony Akamwesiga says a research problem is a statement, yes, an area of concern, a condition to be improved, a difficulty to be eliminated, or troubling question that exists in scholarly literature. This is very important. Scholarly literature in theory or in practice that points to the need for meaningful understanding and deliberate investigation. Meaningful understanding. Remember, someone said collecting a lot of information, another person said that was Gertrude. I think Gertrude said something about you collect a lot of information, have a detailed data picked. So that detailed data, the point is to try to understand it, and then try to have a meaningful understanding and then deliberate investigation, where you try to understand, you're basically trying to investigate whether something is true or false, or try to understand it because you haven't understood it, or a group of people have not understood it. And remember one of the key points here is the problem should exist in scholarly literature. Yeah, that's what a research problem is. Okay, it must exist in scholarly literature. So you realize for you, one of the key things to be able to identify this research problem, you must do quite a bit of reading from scholarly literature. It isn't just any literature, it's not Wikipedia. One of the mistakes we see is when somebody references Wikipedia. Wikipedia is not a scholarly source. Yeah? So you must do quite a bit of reading to be able to bring out your research problem, to say, oh, so and so, these people went and did research about this thing. They didn't find anything significant. This did not, things like that. So after you've identified this research problem, we shall have a detailed, there's a whole topic on this, a whole lecture on this, on identification of a research problem. You then create aims, or what we refer to as objectives. Somebody said, I remember in the chat room, let me just go back and see. Yes, it was Talunga, I think it's Talunga here, who said it is collecting a lot of information, answering questions and solving problems. These are the aims. The aims can be objectives, which objectives can be turned into questions, research questions. So you would have identified your research problem. You create research objectives or aims which help to answer your research problem, your identified research problem. Again, we shall have detailed discussion on this. Now, once you've identified your research problem, you've set out your objectives, you then select appropriate research methods. Yeah, research is a scientific process. Research is a scientific process. That means for you to solve it, you must have a research method. You must use a research method. That's what makes science science, that the fact that you have a systematic process of arriving to your answer. And oh, by the way, one of the things to note about research is that even a negative answer is an answer. Okay, even a negative answer is an answer. You'll see that in the research articles that I will give you. Then you select appropriate data collection techniques. There's research methods and then there's data collection techniques. Two different things. We shall have a detailed discussion on that as well. We clearly identify this is a research method, this is a data collection technique or tool. Two different things. After you collect your data, you do what we call data analysis. That means you're now trying to make meaning so that you can arrive at an answer, that you can arrive at something that goes back to your aims or objectives. Yeah, so it's a whole process. If you come back to your aims and objectives and you say, am I closing this gap, this research gap? So the student essentially should be able to interpret data analysis results. It should be able to, what you're doing is you're getting your data, the results you got from when you collected data, you should be able to analyze it and then interpret it. This last point, the research proposal should actually, it comes before the data analysis. Yeah, it comes before. So in identification of your problems, the aims, the research method, data tools, that should make your proposal. By the time you're coming now to data analysis techniques, now you're writing the final book. But your proposal would be made up of this first point, identification of the research problem. You identify your objectives or aims and research questions, your research method, and the appropriate techniques. That should make up your research proposal. Once you have your research proposal, you basically have the first 3 chapters of your dissertation. So we realize it's very, very important that we pick these skills. We make an effort to pay attention, to participate, ask questions as much as possible so that we understand these basic techniques. Please don't just take the course unit simply for the sake of passing the course unit. No, these tools are extremely, extremely important. Very, very important. So we're going to start by defining research. Yeah, defining research. So some of you go to Google and just give me the definitions that Google gives you. Says here, Marjorie gives us the first definition. Systematic investigation into and study of materials and sources in order to establish facts and reach new conclusions. Yeah, Faith says specific procedures for collecting and analyzing data. Anthony says research is defined as the creation of new knowledge and or the use of existing knowledge in new and creative ways. so as to generate new concepts, methodologies, and understanding. Lomoro Stevens says it is a systematic inquiry to describe, explain, predict, and control the observed phenomena. These are key points, eh? These are words that we may, I know we are seeing new words and it may be a little bit scary, but don't be scared, we shall understand. They are simply big words, but they explain the same thing. So if we look at all these responses that Google gives us, systematic investigation, yeah? Look at this first one, systematic investigation. There is a tendency to just want to do the dissertation and finish it. Eh? I just want to do this thing and finish it. And it's possible you can even get somebody else to do your work for you. That is possible. Someone can do that. But number one, it doesn't say much for you as a scientist. And we all want to be scientists. It's a good thing to be a scientist. It gives you, it demonstrates a very key point of your humanity, your ability to think logically. That's one of the things about being systematic. It shows our ability to be logical. So you're investigating something and you're studying certain materials and sources. Yeah. So these sources could be from the context, like Gertrude talked about a case study. It could be the case study. It could be from literature. And then once you study it, you establish certain facts and you reach new conclusions. Yeah. Let me just see the new added. We have Kavega Davis, and he says research is defined as careful consideration of study regarding a particular concern or problem. Yes, using scientific methods. Yeah, those are key points. Again, the same thing from Grace. When you're using scientific methods, careful consideration of study. Now, it's very important that we get these key points that are being raised, that you're getting from Google and particularly from this slide. When we are IT students, we may focus more on developing a system and so on and so forth. And for IT people, I'm also an IT person. One of my areas that I really appreciated was programming. I taught Java for some time at UMU. So I understand the love of programming and developing a system and being proud of it, which is good, and it's expected of you to develop a system, some kind of IT solution, be it a system, be it a network solution, whatever it is, it's expected. But, do not forget the scientific part of it, having careful consideration. Yes, the lecturer, I know the lecturers sometimes really focus on the system side, but for your own sake, also pick up the research elements. Be very, very keen to pick up those research elements. Later on, when you're doing your master's, and maybe others may move on to a PhD, these research elements, this picking up an appreciation for the scientific side of solving a problem is extremely important, extremely important. And I'll try to focus on those basics so that, for example, identification of a research problem, looking at literature, formulation and identification of research objectives that truly answer the research problem, okay? Then proper analysis of data collected. Yeah, those are key points. So key things to note about the research process. It is a systematic inquiry. Systematic, meaning we have certain set steps we must go through. That is one of the importances of taking the research methods course unit, to understand what those systematic processes are. What are those steps, specific steps we go through to make this research? Then the investigation part. Investigation. How do we carry out that investigation? Because that investigation is also following this systematic inquiry process. The specific problem, we have already discussed that this extensively, and we shall discuss it even more extensively. The specific problem or research issue that we would have identified from existing scholarly literature, which leads to new or improved knowledge. Okay, new or improved knowledge. Question, by the way, how many of you are participating in the artificial intelligence project with Mr. Kasozi and Dr. Sanya? How many of you in this class are participating in that particular project? Is there anyone in this class participating in it?
Time to hear about that project. Maybe.
Sorry?
It's my first time to hear about that project. I was
First time, okay, so it may be another group of people. But artificial intelligence is one of them, one new area. And I'm sure there are a lot of unanswered questions that someone can think about. IT always has new areas to think about. IT really has quite a number of new areas that we can look at. So the point is to have new or improved knowledge. That is the point. And sometimes just developing a system alone is not enough. Yes, sometimes that's what they focus on, but for your sake, I would suggest try to bring something new. And when we say new knowledge, we're not talking about groundbreaking research. No, we're not simply talking about groundbreaking research. I'll give you an example of my own research at PhD level. I developed a solution, and by that PhD level, they don't bother about your IT solution. They're not interested. They're really interested in the new knowledge that you're bringing. I'll give you something I discovered that I had no idea about. I was developing a mobile application to support healthcare access in rural areas. So imagine a patient or a doctor or a nurse, or we have what we call in rural areas what we call VHTs, village health teams, who are ordinary citizens who are given basic training to provide healthcare at village level. So what happened? There was a mobile application that was developed, and the objective was these VHTs on a weekly and sometimes now I think it's monthly basis. They send monthly reports to a centralized system. Simple things like how many cases of malaria they had, how many cases of diarrhea, how many cases of pneumonia, drug stock, they're given basic drugs to supply to community members, specifically for those areas. Then they make referrals, things like that. Also at the healthcare systems, for example, at Nkozi Hospital, they would also send a monthly report. Now, the point was not the system. The system was not the new knowledge that I found. One of the things that I reported back was it had never occurred to me, and I didn't know it, and it was never reported anywhere, that for many rural mobile phone users, using even the simple button phone, let me rephrase this into more specific words. We have what we call computer literacy. There's also what we call mobile phone literacy. And actually mobile phone literacy in rural areas is extremely low. And one of the times I first discovered it was when we went to implement, one old gentleman, part of the VHTs, raised his hand and said, "Madam, for me, the only thing I can do with his phone is to make a call and receive a call. That's it." Most of these people didn't even know how to go to their message box. They didn't know how to type out a message. So the new and improved knowledge I brought out from my research was the experience, the mobile, the users, the mobile phone user in a rural context. Who is this mobile phone user? So that anyone else who is developing a mobile application understands this is the mobile phone user in rural areas. This is their description. This is how they behave. We may take it for granted. You're seated maybe in Nkozi, you're seated at Rubaga, at Masaka, all of you are computer literate, you are computer savvy, you can use systems, there are even systems and applications you know how to use that me myself, I don't know. I have nieces and nephews who are very savvy on the social media. I have a confession to make actually. My late father passed in 2016. He was on WhatsApp before me. Imagine me an ICT professional. I was not on WhatsApp. So you can imagine how little I know when it comes to the social media platforms. So it's the same thing with people in the rural areas, to understand the context, to understand the user. Now you as people who develop systems and use as part of your systems. Yes, no? Hello?
Yes, please, madam.
Yeah,
Yes,
users are part and parcel. Yes, Primrose. Yeah, users are part of the system. Now, in certain contexts, someone may not have understood even the type of user that is there. Yeah. Another thing I can tell you, when I went to the hospital itself, was to, especially in the rural hospitals, was to understand how busy that medical doctor is. Some of you may have gone to, I remember, I don't know if your group may not have seen this, but there was a time we had AAR at Nkozi. And you would go there, the doctor has his computer, as he's diagnosing you, he's typing things in the computer and so on and so forth. The doctor in a rural hospital, proper rural hospital, doesn't have those luxuries. Even if they had them, they simply don't have the time, because the ratio of doctor to patient is quite huge. You have one doctor maybe treating over 100 patients in a day. So I remember one of the first times I went to present the system, and one doctor looked at me and laughed. She said, "Do you think we have that time to sit on a computer and start making VoIP calls to patients?" We don't. The second thing I also learned was that doctors don't want to diagnose a patient online. The medical field is very, very traditional, very traditional. They want to see you physically. Yeah. So those were some things that came out. That was new and improved knowledge that I learned in the process. So sometimes, yes, a system is important. They will focus on it, but I would suggest also try and bring out some new and improved knowledge. So by the time you come to your master's, where a proper research is expected, you have this, you have this idea, this understanding very, very well. Yeah, you're not just focused on your system. So why conduct research? Yeah. Why conduct research? The first is academic, for academic purposes. We are all doing this course unit because you have a dissertation at the end of the day. One of the most important things to understand is when you're at university, yeah, once you join university, you're joining a certain class of people, the academics. It's very different from the skills and whatever you learned from primary, secondary, or A level. What then you were doing was simply being told what happens. But once you come at academic level, you're now creating, you are creating knowledge. You're supposed to create knowledge. Now, of course, at bachelor's level, we don't expect that same level of research as at master's and PhD. No, let me not scare you on that. But we begin to introduce you, the student, to what it means to be an academic, what it truly means to be an academic, to be a degree holder, that you now begin to create new knowledge. And that's what being an academic means. Yeah? I don't know if you've ever, if some of you have ever seen discussions of lecturers on email. Particularly, I'm always interested in seeing the doctors, the professors bring forward their points. There's a lot of thought they put in their communications. You can see their thinking, their philosophical thinkings behind something, and that's what makes an academic. Your thinking is a little bit different, and that's what research essentially drives us to. So the first and most important is for the academic purposes of us doing research. Second most important is acquiring new knowledge. This knowledge isn't just for you alone, but for a certain community. That's why going through scholarly research is very important. Literature, what others are saying, it must be of interest, not just for you, but for a certain community. Remember the example I gave you earlier of where a colleague was saying, if you're saying that we don't know the distance between the Earth and the Moon. Okay, it may be you who doesn't know, but others may already know. Others may already know. So it can't just be for you, but it should be for a certain community that wishes to know. To find answers to questions. Yeah, those are questions being raised by a certain research community. To solve a problem in the practical world. So this normally, the research problems come from the practical world. We had Gertrude at the beginning talking about something called a case study. Yeah. So maybe we have observed in a certain context. Maybe we have observed at Uganda Matters University the inefficiencies of Moodle. You've observed it in a context. But you can go back and you can go and read further about it. What have scholars written about e-learning systems? Are these especially e-learning, open source e-learning systems? Yeah. And maybe they've reported about it, then you say, okay, and you identify the problem outside of UMU, the e-learning part, the issue that you observed in UMU is now, you can actually see it from other scholarly writers. They're talking about this is a problem that specifically exists with open source systems. So here I have some bulletin. Research is careful, organized study of gathering. An example of research topics where scientists try to find a cure for AIDS. Yes, that's a good one. An example of research is the information a high school student tracks down information for a school report. Yeah. A high school student tracks down information for a school report. Someone has posted, here we have Chalunga, who has posted something, has posted two different examples. And I think that it's an interesting one. Are all of you seeing it? The first is scientists trying to discover the cure for AIDS. The second is somebody, a high school student who is trying to track down information for a school report. Two examples. Can you tell me what you think about these two examples? Can you tell me what you think about these two examples? If let us say I'm trying to find out how many students are in my research methods class, is that a research problem?
Excuse me, madam. Excuse me, madam.
Pardon? Yes, Primrose.
I think it is because you need, if it can be a problem because it takes you to know the specific people in that class and to know their interests and their problems, and then you know how to rectify their issue.
What do others think about it? If I wanted to know the number of students that are in my research methods class, is that a research problem? Marjorie?
I think it's a research problem because it's basically for your personal benefit. It doesn't add value to the community or to anyone else.
That's the Marjorie, you're right. It's my personal problem, but it doesn't add value to a community, to a research community. It's me who doesn't know. Most likely the administrator, Lillian or Jen, knows. Maybe Maria from Masaka knows how many students are there, but it's my personal problem. This problem must exist in the scholarly world. People must have written about it, talk about it, saying this issue exists. I gave you the example. Maybe we observe that Moodle is unstable, especially in throwing out errors. Maybe now you observe this as users of Moodle at Uganda Matters University. Then one IT student decides, okay, let me look at resolving, because when systems are developed by a certain software development community, they are supposed to be, let me just give you another example. We all use Windows computers, not so? Microsoft Windows. And these Windows systems come with bugs or there are errors. Now, Microsoft is constantly working to resolve those bugs, and your system periodically will be updated. Once you go online, the system will be updated by Microsoft, because Microsoft is constantly working on bugs or errors that exist in the system. Now, the Microsoft is what is referred to as a proprietary software. Then you come to Moodle. Someone may have observed it, and then somebody realized, oh, but Moodle is open source. Let me look at what the scholars report about open source systems and their rate of correcting bugs. So the person will go to they look at maybe the structure they use to correct bugs, and they research on it, and then they find out, oh, this is how they do it, and maybe because it is a non-profit area, this is what happens. And then you may say, okay, let me do an improvement on that. Let me come up with a new way of correcting this thing, maybe enlist undergraduate students that in this university we do this, and then we see how quickly errors can be resolved. And then at the end of it, you report back to the research community that scholars said that it's very difficult to resolve these problems. So we decided to create a new structure at Uganda Matters, where we correct these bugs and we correct our local system. Then you report it and you propose to others using open source. Okay, this is a new system we have developed, and we managed to correct this number of bugs at no cost, and so on and so forth. So that becomes a research problem, so to speak, a research solution for open source systems. Yeah. So we must. So when we look at the example here given, this particular example of scientists trying to find a cure for AIDS, that is research, or even scientists trying to find a cure for COVID. Yeah, that is research. But if there's a student trying to track their personal information, that is a personal problem, but it's not a research problem. Okay? One may say, a person may decide to, an academic, let us say, I have observed this thing of high school students trying to track their school reports. Yeah? High school students trying to track. And you expand it further than IT students. And then maybe you look at it as access to academic information for high school students. Yeah. And you embark on developing a system. But you might even say, I'm going to do an affordable system. You develop the system. Now, your research point would be to find out, is it actually affordable for high school students and for the schools themselves? So you develop the system. Your point is not that a person can access the information, but the context in which it is placed. That makes it research in its proper sense. But actually just developing a system on its own, that is not necessarily research, we would say. I know as IT students, that's what you're focused on, developing a system, but try to answer a research problem. Yeah? Okay. A key point in research is communication. Yeah? Communication is a key point because whatever it is you're trying to find out, you have to communicate it to a community. Yes? Very, very important part. Sometimes you do your research trying to please your supervisor. Please don't. Research comes from you. Your supervisor is only there to guide you. Research comes from you. And there is something each one of us wants to communicate. Something that is uniquely coming from you. So one of the skills that you have to you develop is independent thinking, because it's coming from you. You're developing independent thinking. Creativity, that you're seeing an existing problem and you're coming up with a solution. Of course, let me first ease your minds. At undergraduate level, we're not looking for heaven and earth, no. Just for your ability to go within a context, observe a problem, and then say that if I design this solution, does it resolve the problem? Yeah, if I design this solution, does it resolve the problem? Quickly accessing maybe your student information. You develop a system and then you actually carry out a research with students. Are they able to access this information quickly? Not just about developing the system and showing the panel that the system can do this, the system can do that. That's very nice, but did it resolve the problem of quick access to information? Did it resolve it? Those would be good questions. Those would be good research questions to answer. Answering the what if questions. What happens if fees are increased? The what if questions. You have observed, like for example, Primrose said, a student is failing to access their school report. Then you observe, okay, generally students are don't have quick access. So if I design a system, does that improve quick access? Where you actually think about, let me develop the system and I put it in the context and determine, does it actually improve access? And that question, I answer it. That would be really nice to see in an undergraduate's research. For me, that would be my idea. Another reason is to improve the well-being of people. So that's essentially, that is the main thing. But the first and most important is to bring new knowledge. Many times our so-called solutions as IT people don't bring about well-being. And we desperately, as IT people, we desperately want to show that we have brought improvement. We don't have to do that. We can actually I'll share with you an article done in research where the research, the objective of the research actually failed. Yeah. And that is also an important thing to report back. It failed. Yes, you may have a working system, but my research objective actually failed. Yeah. We may want to prove or disprove a hypothesis. And that would be a key point. Many times in IT, we say, if we use this, it brings about better this. If we use the system, it brings about improved communication, improved business processes. And in actual sense, you find it doesn't. It's also a good thing to report back. So when you're testing or disproving a theory or hypothesis, you're saying, someone was saying, you have, if you bring in a system, it improves efficiency, but you actually find it doesn't bring about your desired answer. That is also the new knowledge you can report back. Do you get my point so far? Hello? The number of students keeps dropping. Eh? What is the matter? I thought you're all at your campuses and internet should be okay. Why do we have constant drops?
Madam, you're also breaking.
Sorry?
You're also breaking yourself.
I'm also dropping.
Yes.
No, I mean, I know, I realize there might be fluctuations, but I'm specifically talking about those who are participants in the class. For example, we were at 27, right now we're at 19. Here, of course, I know the network should be not so good because it's raining heavily. So, oh, someone is saying you're in Ntungamo, but you're trying to attend fully. Yeah, that's commendable. Thank you for that effort. So, my question is, going back to why we conduct research, to prove or disprove. The point I was trying to bring across, as IT people, we focus on developing solutions and we want to say our solutions do bring about this. And a point I want to bring forward to you is, why not develop a system and then prove or disprove if it actually does bring about the efficiency you are proposing in the first place? And if it doesn't, you report back to say, why it hasn't brought about that efficiency. Are you getting me?
No, madam.
Is it the network or what I'm explaining?
What you're explaining.
What I'm explaining, okay. Somebody here has put up something. Martha says, I am breaking. Okay. Right now, there's not much I can do because of the rain. The rain is affecting network. Let me first see. Give me a minute. Let me first stop sharing. I just want to check. Okay, so okay, sorry about that. The network here, because of the rain, is really slowing me down. So let me just explain a bit further. Many times in the IT class, don't worry, for those who have missed out some of these things, I'm going to upload the recorded part of the lecture. Many times as IT students, we have a situation where we focus on developing a system or IT solution, and we simply present that. But we forget, maybe someone might have said, like the example Primrose said, the example Primrose gave, where she said, you may have observed high school students who want to access their school report. And maybe you can generalize it and say, there is slow access to school records for school students, high school students. And you go back to the scholarly literature and you find out access to information, how systems are being proposed to give greater access, and then you propose for a certain number of schools. Maybe you pick out one school or two schools and say, I'm going to develop a system and see if it will actually improve. So you develop the system, implement it in the school, and then determine, does it actually bring about improvement of access to information? And you may find disparate results. You may find, no, actually, maybe the students don't have access to online resources. They don't have access. Maybe the schools can't afford, and that answers your question. Yeah, you approve or disprove. I hope I've answered your question. Eh? Martha, was I clear at this point?
Yes, madam.
Okay. So let us look at some characteristics of good research. Give me a minute. I just want to check the time. We started at 9, now it's 10:30. I also don't want to, I don't want to lose you all together. But let's see if we can at least do 2 hours maximum, and then we can meet again next week. So characteristics of good research. We are going to discuss this extensively. So we had earlier talked about research being a systematic process. Yeah? Research being a systematic process. Let me just redo this, sorry. We had already discussed that point. So we've understood it clearly. So if it has followed a systematic process. Oh, someone says you have a class at 11. Okay. Is it online or physical?
Madam, it's a computer science class and it's physical.
It's physical. Okay, okay. Okay. Okay, let's just let me see how much was I left with. Okay, we can finish we can finish up next week with after you've had your reading assignment. I'm going to upload it on Moodle, and then I will send you the enrollment key as well in a few minutes. Yeah. Is that okay?
It's fine, madam.
Okay. Okay. So I'll send you the enrollment key and put up the reading assignment in a few minutes. Yeah? Okay. Okay. Thank you everyone for this time. Inform the rest of the other groups, other class members who may not have come about what we've discussed and everything. And I hope next week's attendance will be fine. Yeah? And I hope next week's attendance we won't have the rain as well. So